In this movie, we'll look at actions that send and receive signals or messages, and at timers. We'll look at the two types of actions for sending signals and accepting events, the use of signals as object nodes, and timers that allow you to put time-triggered actions into activity diagrams. There's a type of action that can be used to send messages or signals in an activity diagram. Technically, it's a send signal action, and it's shown as a pentagon made up of a rectangle with a triangular end on the right so that it looks like an arrowhead. Similarly, there's a specific kind of action to receive messages or events called an accept event action. This is shown as a pentagon which is like a rectangle with a triangular notch taken out of the left-hand end. Send actions send messages or signals, and receive actions receive them. If we want, we can show signals on the diagram using object nodes. These are object instances whose classifier is a signal rather than a class, and this can be shown with a stereotype of signal as on the right here. Often in business processes or other activities, we want to show that actions or activities are triggered by events that happen at a certain point in time. For this, we can use what is technically an accept time event action, which is shown as a shape that looks a little like an hourglass. Let's add these to a diagram in Enterprise Architect. We'll add some of these to our activity diagram for test a physical device. Some of these actions in this diagram have names that indicate that they are sending or receiving messages. Send message to device is one. At the moment, this is just an atomic action. However, I can change it to be a send signal action. I open up its properties and go to the advanced pane in the general page. I change the kind to send signal in the drop-down list. Click OK. You can see that its shape has changed. The message that comes back from the device is received in the action called receive response. So I'll change that to an accept event action. I do the same, except I choose accept event from the drop-down list. You can see that its shape has changed now as well. I could add objects to the diagram for signals that are sent and received by these two actions. I'll add an object here called x10 message out. At the moment, I haven't got a signal to choose as the instance classifier for this, so I'll add one to my class model. I go to the event management package, and I can choose add an element. It needs to be from the UML class toolset, and I can choose signal. I'll call it x10 message. Now I can select the instance classifier for my message from the class view and the event management package, and you'll see x10 message there with a little icon that shows that it's a signal. I'll show an object flow from send message to device to my message. I can do the same here for receive response. I'll call this x10 message in, and I set the instance classifier to be that same x10 message signal. And I'll draw an object flow in from the signal to the receive response action. Note that the two messages aren't the same. This one is a message in, this one is a message out. Cancel timer and timer cancelled are also potentially send and receive actions. So I'll change cancel timer to be of the send signal kind, and I'll change timer cancelled to be of the accept event kind. Finally, I want to add a timer. If we look in the toolbox, timer isn't there, but there is the receive action. I can use that, and I'll call it timeout. And then I right-click, select Advanced, and Accept Time Event. You'll see that it's changed the shape to that hourglass shape. I can now draw a control flow from timeout to wait for timeout. Now that action, wait for timeout, has two control flows as inputs. And where there are two inputs, there's an implicit join. So it will wait for the token from the fork and the token from the timeout to arrive before it executes. In fact, I could remove it now, as it doesn't really do anything except pass control onto the right variable action. But I'll leave it there, as it makes it clear what's happening. So there's the diagram with send and receive actions, timer, and signals added into it. Now we've completed activity diagrams, We've created some activity diagrams that are shown inside activities, for example our first version of Add a Device and the diagram for Directly Control Device via Browser. We've added decision and merge nodes for branches and fork and join nodes for parallel flows. We've also added initial, activity final and flow final nodes. We've partitioned an activity in the first version of Add a Device and also used swim lanes in the second version of the diagram. We've seen how you can add objects and use object flows instead of control flows, and how pins are used when there isn't an object in the diagram itself. We've taken an activity at one level and decomposed it into a more detailed activity diagram with activity parameters where data enters it through pins on the parent diagram. Lastly, we've looked at some specific types of actions for sending and receiving signals and responding to the passage of time.